In this video, guys, we're going to be taking another look at Bitcoin and giving you a bit more of an update on the smaller timeframes on what is going on here and what we expect to happen next for Bitcoin. So as we get into it, we're going to have a look at the daily chart to start with, then we're going to get into the hourlies and see exactly what's going on. We'll also have a look at a few things as well that are going on in terms of the fear and greed index and obviously what the AI is basically telling us that is also looking like. So the first thing we kind of wanted to talk about was obviously we have this Wyckoff accumulation pattern forming here. So the expectations are after the last 3 days of green candles is to actually see Bitcoin pull back. Okay, so we're expecting Bitcoin to pull back a little bit, not too far. It's going to be probably much to kind of the midway point. Or the opening point, I should say, of where it was a couple of days ago. That's going to be the pullback zone. And then from there, we're going to see basically Bitcoin go up and rally. Probably going to be next week. We'll see this kind of kicking off probably around Monday. And when we see Bitcoin heading towards that 40K level, okay? So right now, our expectations are to take the price from where it is right now down to this area just down here, okay? So this pullback zone is the next thing that we're expecting Bitcoin to do. And obviously, as Bitcoin gets a correction, all of those altcoins are likely to get a pullback as well. So those are just our expectations, looking at the patterns that we're expecting to see here for Bitcoin going forward. Now, obviously, once we have had this little area, this little pullback, then we're going to be going after that next target, which is going to be about 40K, okay? So there's a little bit of pain before we go up there. And obviously, once we're up at this level, we'll have another pullback before going to about 42K. And then we'll get the slightly deeper pullbacks as we start to go back into that accumulation zone for those institutions, trying to just, take some additional retail money out of play. So again, going to be watching this one very, very closely, guys, as we go into this correction and we go after this 40K move to the upside. So lots going on. This is worth just paying attention to. Obviously, we've had the death cross, right? And what we normally happens when we have a death cross, guys, is the price goes up, and this kind of goes in line with our expectations of basically going up to 40K and this accumulation period. Here we obviously have that death cross. We actually fell down before moving back up again. And again, we can go back and we can check these time and time again. Basically, you get these little moves to the upside. So yeah, really interesting stuff going on here. And our expectations are that ultimately we're going to be heading towards this 40K once we have one more correction to the downside here first. So again, everything on this daily chart's looking as expected at the moment. So let's jump on down and we'll start with the 4 hourly. Again, this kind of shows us a little bit more of what's going on here. So obviously, what you have with these kind of death crosses, if that's really what we want to call them, but basically that you cross the lines and basically all they do is actually report on what's happened previously, right? So with the 50 crossing the 200 in this particular case, we had this downswing, so we get that cross that represents it, but we are expecting to move up rather than down, even though we had a golden cross here. Obviously now we are that was basically just representing this part. So as we can see, we had the pullback down to the ST in phase B, or the secondary test in phase B. This kind of scopes out this area. We're moving on up to this one here, and again, this could be actually something that we're seeing slightly differently. And actually that this particular pullback that we had on these 4 hourly chart could be this actual pullback here, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. So again, we'll have to watch this one and see how it plays out. I think there's going to be lots of these little corrections on the route. We're looking for a slightly deeper correction than what we had here, but I'd like that to be the case because that would mean that we're continuing to the upside. But my expectations are that actually we'll have a bit of a pullback before we continue the run to the upside. So on this 4 hourly chart, you can see exactly how that move's playing out so far. If we drop down into our hourly, here we can see a little bit more of that detail. I will take off these simple moving averages now, and we'll just focus in on something like the Bollinger Band. So right now we can see how we're pushing right across that upper band, okay, and that's again in line with our relative strength index here. So we're moving right up into that overbought area. We're having a pullback right now as we are pushing that upper boundary of that Bollinger Band. So again, I'll take those off so now we understand what's going on here. We are getting a serious push against that level. We can see as well that our volumes are actually decreasing as we're starting to have a bit of a decrease on these candles here as well. So let me zoom in and make this a little bit bigger for guys so you can see, right? So ultimately we had this push to the upside today, and we can see that here. And what's really interesting, guys, is how we're kind of getting this decrease in volume. So that sentiment in the market seems to be shifting a little bit, right? So as we pushed up here, the volumes didn't do too much. They were kind of static, right? They weren't overwhelming. They weren't doing anything impressive, and they were very underwhelming, right? But ultimately, we're seeing this decrease in volume, as we're starting to see this pullback right here. So this is going to be an interesting thing because it means that we're going to run out of steam on the way down. But we are looking to push this relative strength index a lot lower than it currently is in order to be able to take advantage of the swing to the upside. So the expectations are that we will actually have a bit of a steep correction here at some point, probably pulling down towards the 33k area. Okay, that would be where my thoughts would be with this one. And then from there, we should be in a pretty good position to then slowly move our way up towards that 40k level according to the daily charts and where that Wyckoff accumulation is currently looking to go. So right now, we'll have to see what goes on here with the sentiment. We take a look at the generalized fear and greed index. It says there's extreme fear for Bitcoin here, as well as the entire crypto space and all those altcoins. But we take a look at the AI from 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗃, and we actually have a C1 rating, which means there's fear, but it's not extreme fear. So as well, as what's going on, we can see that actually, yeah, there's definitely a sentiment shift here from what was previously, extreme fear. And we could see this when we had selling pressure coming in, and we saw a selling pressure coming with an increase in selling volume. Now you're actually seeing selling pressure coming in with a decrease of selling volume. So again, that sentiment is shifting a little bit. And this is going to be one of those key things that institutions kind of watch out for. What sentiment in the market, they're looking to capture as much retail money as they can, and pulling Bitcoin up and allowing it to go up to about 40k before kind of really capitalizing in on it, pulling the price back down again a little bit lower. So again, if we take a look at that Wyckoff accumulation, what actually is going on here is the price will be going up towards that 40k area, and then it'll have another steep pullback down towards the 30k areas. Okay, so again, they'll be taking a large chunk of retail money on that journey, accumulating more Bitcoin, and then obviously slowly pushing it back up again. Again, having another pullback before we finally get that strength or sign of strength and moving on out of this accumulation zone. Okay, so once we get this accumulation zone out of the way, that's where Bitcoin will really absolutely go on a tear. And again, you will start seeing significant runs. So when we start thinking about where we are in the short term, we obviously are expecting the pullback to come in. And again, we are expecting to eventually move up towards 40k before we actually go back down to 30. So again, it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster ride. It normally lasts 4 to 6 weeks on this one. And again, where we are right now in terms of our hourly chart is to kind of just monitor the situation, see where we're likely to pull back to, find those good areas of support and resistance, and make sure that we, are basically, sticking to those, right? So 33k is looking like a good, strong support zone for us at the moment. And if that does hold, then that would be basically in line with our expectations of this pullback here, which would again put it about 32 to 33k in that kind of range. And then we'll obviously be going up towards the 40k area. So again, these kind of corrections will come in, they'll shake a few people out. But the aim of this Wyckoff accumulation is to make people believe that actually the correction is over with this double tap of setting a higher high before actually bringing the price back down to 30k or so gradually. So that basically people can then start to feel that fear again. They'll accumulate and they'll continue the run. So again, it's going to take a while, but we're going to have a pretty good time once we get out of here. And if we go up into our weekly chart, guys, our expectations for where the fifth wave is going to end on this one, so it's going to be around that $178,000 Bitcoin level. And again, we've spoken a lot about that, what that looks like in terms of a stock to flow model, Bitcoin's dominance, and obviously the Elliott theory with the fifth impulse wave going up towards that level there. So guys, hopefully you have found this useful and interesting in terms of where we think Bitcoin is likely to go on the short term, where the expectations are longer term. And guys, if you have found it useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate it, and Chris really appreciates it. Of course, if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with all that Bitcoin news, technical analysis, then do go ahead and subscribe. It is free. You'll stay well informed. So why not? Hit that bell, tap on all, and you won't miss a single video. Guys, with that said, I'll catch you in the next one.